Now, if you're somebody who is stuck in your career, you're not really sure what to do, and you're kind of looking for a way out or an opportunity to improve yourself and also improve your income and the amount of money you have in your bank account, I'm going to show you the top reasons for why some people are just kind of stuck in the loop, not really making much progress, and what you can actually do about that to make a difference in your life, to generate a higher income and live the life that you actually want to live. And the first thing we're going to talk about is going to be mindset. And I know this is very cliche. Everyone's going to be like, oh, he's just, think and grow rich kind of thing. But is this really the truth? If you believe you cannot do something, that is going to be your reality. You just cannot do it. You're not even going to make the attempts to try. But then if you believe that you can do something, even though it's very difficult, you actually have opportunity. And I remember, talking to different people over the years, and people would say things to me like, oh, Patrick, you cannot do this. And I would always tell them like, hey, just because you feel like you cannot do it based on your experience and your skill sets doesn't mean I can't do it. So I don't think you should tell me what I can and cannot do, because the reality is if I set my mind to it, I can do it. And yeah, maybe it's a lot harder. Maybe it's super difficult to do, and maybe it's near impossible, but you can't say I cannot do. So I can actually give you a specific example of how I was able to implement this mindset in order to generate a higher income, right? So as you guys might have known, or maybe you don't know, I'm very involved in the NFT space, the Web3 space. I have my own project, and I also advise and consult a lot of different clients in the space as well. I started advising people about maybe 7 months or 8 months into NFTs. That's when I started consulting and advising different clients. There's some people in the space are very negative, very toxic, they're very pessimistic. So they would be like, how can you be an advisor, or how can you be a consultant if you've only been in the space for 7-8 months, right? Some of these people, they expect you to have bought Ethereum early in 2013 in order to have the knowledge to be an advisor, right? The reality is maybe that's their belief in how they view the world, but I disagree very highly, because it doesn't matter how long you've been in the space. You can be in crypto or any other industry for 5 years, right? And if you don't really contribute, if you don't really make moves, or you don't really learn anything new, and you're just doing the same thing, or you're just hodling or just holding Bitcoin, then it's yeah, but you don't really have any skills to do anything. Just because you've been in the space for a long time doesn't mean you know what is good, what is bad, what is better. It's more about the work that you put in. So yeah, so at that time, even though I only had maybe 7-8 months of full-time experience in crypto, I've done a lot with that short period of time, right? That's just an example of not letting someone else's reality or someone's perception of reality influence me, because if I think I can consult these clients and I think I can make a difference and increase their chances of success, I'm going to do it, because that's a win-win situation for everybody, right? And I'm not going to let, someone put me down just because they have a different opinion based on their own experiences. Now, the next tip I have for you when it comes to generating higher income is working harder doesn't equate to more money. Right? Because if you think about it, there are a lot of hard workers in the world, right? For example, I'm living in Southeast Asia, and I look around. I see a lot of people, let's say driving Grab, which is kind of like Uber, in the cars, in the motorbike even. And they're driving 12 hours a day. Or even a chef working at a restaurant. They're working 12 hours a day as well. But not really getting paid that much. In fact, in Southeast Asia, the average salary per month is $400. So it's there are plenty of people that work more hours than me, hard hours than me, but they only make a small fraction of my income. Why is that? Working hard is part of the ingredients, but it's not everything. Working smart, combined with the ethics of working hard, that's where the way to go, right? I think Abraham Lincoln said, if you give him 4 hours to cut down a tree or something, he'll spend 3 hours sharpening the axe and 1 hour to cut down the tree versus 4 hours just chopping with a dull axe, right? So I think in order to generate a higher income, it's all about leverage, right? And you got to position yourself in the right way in order to make the maximum amount of income. And of course, you got to work hard at it, but then part of the game is knowing where to position yourself, and that takes a lot of thinking, right? There are a lot of jobs out there where you can turn off your brain, you just do the same thing over and over and over. For example, if you're a chef and someone just says all right, today you got to make a chicken, a beef, whatever, and you just close your eyes and you just do the thing, and then next thing you know, 12 hours has passed. That's hard work, but it's not very strategic, it's not very leveraged, it's just working. But if you leverage things like understanding technology, understanding how things scale, understanding how to work with people and have different synergies, right? For example, let's say if I'm making this YouTube video right now, I have to sit down here for 15 minutes and talk about whatever I'm talking about right now, right? Once I film the video and once I put it on YouTube, for the rest of time, as long as YouTube's still in business, people can watch it every single day. And in some way, whether it's ad revenue or through my course sales, I'm generating income by making that one video. So one video can literally keep printing money for me for the rest of my life. And that's because I understand the leverage of making content one time and having people watch it and consume it for the rest of the time. And that is a form of of leverage. And that's very strategic, right? Because if you think about me as a salesperson or teaching B2B sales, I could have took another route where, I could have done like corporate sales training, going to companies like Oracle and this and that, and physically going there and getting paid to teach their sales reps. But I could totally do that. But the thing is, I've realized is I could do that and it's not a bad income, but I would have to physically go to every spot and live this whole like traveling lifestyle. And yes, it is good money doing it and it is fun and enjoyable, but at the same time, it's not highly leveraged. Whereas if I, let's say, talked about the same subjects, but giving it away for free on YouTube and also selling an online course, Sales Legacy, if you're interested in that, I can make these videos one time and have people enjoy them all over the world forever, right? And that is a very highly leveraged thing, because if you think about it, there are probably like hundreds of thousands of sales trainers out in the world, every day teaching sales, right? Whether it's at a company, they have their own business, whatever the case is, but there's only like 10 or less people who are like B2B sales content creators on YouTube. And so it's like, why is it that like 0.01% of the sales trainers are actually creating content? Is because it's a different kind of skill, but you have to learn these things and understand that leverage, right? And so by understanding these leverage points and understanding how you can find leverage in your life, that's going to make a really big difference, and it potentially can multiply your income, right? So the next tip I have for you, and when it comes to generating more revenue, is increasing your ticket size or changing your offer, whatever it is that you're selling, so that you can sell it for higher prices to people who have a lot of money, right? So if you're selling a product that's like $500 and you have to service these clients and you're working with like small businesses, well, it's like if each one's paying you $500 a month, how many of these clients do you need to make $1 million a year? You need a lot, and that's going to be a lot of headache as well. And who knows what your profit margin even looks like at that level, right? If you work with people who already have money and they have a budget, maybe they have $1 million budgets and they're just throwing money at everything, well, you can take advantage of that and offer a product or service that aligns with what they actually want. I've learned that it's very difficult to sell to people who have no money. You put in the same amount of work and you add a 0 to the deal size, right? Literally a 0 to the deal size, and you can sell it to a larger company and it'll be so much easier. There's no headaches. They don't worry about, like I don't have the money this month or whatever. It's like they have millions of dollars and they're going to buy whatever it is that you have, right? But especially when I got into the crypto industry, because these companies, they're VC backed, they have millions of dollars, maybe they sold an NFT, they have millions of dollars of funds. When they want to work with me and hire me to do advising, consulting, whatever the case is, budget isn't really like a big issue that we talked about, because I know they have the money. It's just finding the right price point that makes sense for both sides. Whereas if I sold, let's say, coaching to someone who was starting out their coaching business, well, what if that person literally has no money, right? Because they're just a one-man shop, right? And nothing wrong with that. Everyone's got to start somewhere. If you put in the same amount of work, but you sell to these companies that are multi-million-dollar businesses, it's just so much more easier to generate revenue. If you think about it, in order to increase your income, if you change the product or offer the service that you're selling, you align it with the problems that these companies have, and these companies are willing to spend the money to solve that problem, you're just kind of like positioning yourself in the right way where, a tidal wave's going to come and you just got to ride that wave, Whereas if you're just like digging through the dirt, trying to find opportunity, and it's like oversaturated and there's not much money and stuff like that, it's a very hard business, right? So focus on where the money is, understand where the money flows, position yourself in a way where you can just ride the wave and everything is just so effortless, and it's going to make your life so much easier. And trust me, I've done both, trying to sell to people without money and selling people with like too much money. And I got to say, selling to people with a lot more money is a lot more easier, right? And that takes brains on your side, actually, if you're watching this, to think about how you are going to position yourself to be in the room with those people in order to sell those products and services. So the next tip I have for you is that you got to learn how to negotiate. This is one of the key factors in increasing your revenue. For example, right, you're doing a large deal with a client, you want to charge $100,000 for this deal. Based on your ability to negotiate, you could be able to increase your revenue by 30% just by saying the words in a different way. So if you want 100,000, maybe you can actually make 130,000, but you just have to position it in a way and negotiate in a way that makes the other person feel comfortable with giving you that amount of dollars. Now, if you're always like afraid to negotiate, or you always lowball yourself, like let's say you want 100K, but you're like, oh my God, like I'm not sure if they want to work with me. What if they go with another person? So I'm going to charge 60 to undercut everyone. Yeah, maybe you'll get the client, but you're doing yourself a disservice because you're decreasing your revenue because your lack of confidence in yourself. So learning how to negotiate is one of the most powerful things, because for me, in my personal deals and that I do, I always negotiate about like 30% higher of what I actually want. Sometimes people just take it and great, I make 30% extra more revenue. Sometimes they have to negotiate and I go down, 120%, 110%, and then maybe I'll get to 100% of what I actually wanted, right? Depends on the deal, depends on how much money the other person has, and depends on how much money they're willing to give up, right? And so this whole dance of negotiation is like, everyone's trying to get a good deal. So I want to make sure what I think is fair, but I also want to make sure the other person feels like they got a fair deal as well. When they walk away happy and I walk away happy, everybody wins. That's the name of the game, right? But in fact, when you are the salesperson or you have the ability to negotiate, you actually are in control of this, right? So for me, the way I look at it fundamentally is, as a sales rep or the salesperson, I control everything, right? It's just I'm creating the illusion of control for the other person and making them feel like they are in control. If I want $100,000 and I'm charging $130K, typically what happens is they're gonna say, that's a lot higher than I thought. What is it gonna take for us to go lower? And then I'm gonna be like, well, I can do 115 if you give me these other non-tangible parts of the deal. And then they're gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do that. And they're gonna be like, well, you know, I talked to my team and 115 is a little pricey. Is there any way we can make it lower? And then if there are other terms that I want in the deal, I can say like, hey, you know, you got to pay me upfront, for example, and then I'm willing to take off like $10,000, right? And then they'll be like, all right, sounds great to me, right? So in that situation, maybe I'm getting more than 100% of what I wanted, and then I'm getting all these non-tangible aspects of the deal that I also want, and I find value in that. And that's the beauty of negotiations, right? The key thing I learned in negotiations, when you start high, you anchor high, the other person's going to anchor low. If they're a beginner in negotiations, they're going to anchor at what they want, and they're going to get screwed over, right? Or not screwed over, but like they're just not good at negotiating. But usually if they're experienced, it's like I'll go 130%, they'll go 70%, right? So it's kind of like that. And you kind of meet in the middle. So that's why you always have to anchor high, because you're always going to fall down. But here's the trick. Every time you lower your price, you have the opportunity to ask for something. And a lot of times you're going to ask for these non-tangible things that maybe you find value in. It could be like, hey, you know, if we're going to lower the fixed price, then you're going to have to give me a higher percentage for the next thing, or whatever the case is, right? So just know, anchor high. Every time you go lower, ask for something else, because that's going to help you a lot. Now, in the reverse situation, let's say they anchored low and you want them to increase price, then what's going to happen is that every time you increase their price, then you're going to have to give something as well. So it's really all based on positioning. That's why I always recommend anchoring kind of like as high as you can without being disrespectful, which is like 30 or 40% usually of what you kind of want in the B2B context. And then just negotiate down from there. Then everyone meets in the middle, you shake hands, and the deal is done. So learning how to negotiate, that would literally increase your revenue by 30%, right? So if you're making 100K a year, there you go, that's 130, right? That's a big deal. And so with that said, those are gonna be some of my best tips when it comes to increasing your revenue. If you enjoy this, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you wanna master the skills of negotiations and sales and everything like that, make sure to check out my masterclass, Sales Legacy, at saleslegacy.com, where you can learn more. With that said, I will see you in the next one.